Hi guys, happy Thursday! Welcome to the last Talk O'Clock material review kind of things. Starting next week, I will have a new kind of segment on the Thursday Talk O'Clock that I already kind of hinted on in last Saturday one. But if you haven't seen it, here's a quick information review, whatever kind of thing. So starting next week, you will actually be able to see the planning / cranking out ideas part of the painting. Usually in the videos, it being the art journal or the Tiny Tuesdays or also on Fridays, the videos, you actually see the part afterwards once I have an idea, once I planned out and or got a first draft of a painting or a crafty thing. But the part beforehand actually takes place, of course, as well, and is maybe a bit funny or weird or worth to watch along, especially for other artists or just interested people that say, oh, I want to know how that actually works. How do you get that idea? What happened there? So I'm going to capture that particular part of painting, which is the weird moments of getting ideas. So yeah, just saying, I'm terrified to do it. So this is going to be a real challenge for me, but I'm gonna make it work. I promise. I had that idea for quite a while and was just circling around it like a cat on, I don't know, the hot dessert pudding thing. But yeah, I was like, I should do that. But wow, I'm going to fail so bad. So I said, you know what, this is going to be my challenge. I have to go for it. So that's what's going to happen next week. So you can expect some weird videos. I can promise you that. But today, the last review thingy of the stuff that I actually use every day to do artwork or craft. What I like to use, what I think is important, and what gadgets I'm not too keen on. So today it's tools, as you already saw in the title. Things that I rely on heavily are, you can see it here, done here. And as you by now know, I'm not too keen on having every gadget that is available. The market is fairly flooded, so you can get anything and any tool. And some of them are so helpful and a basic must-have, I think. But others you can definitely work around if you have certain other tools in your possession and not pay a lot of euros or dollars. Because frankly, these kind of things are expensive because they help so much. But let's get started, shall we? So the first thing that I think is very important when it comes to doing weird artwork, doing mixed media work, crafts like card making or boxes and gift bags are cutters. So the first ones that I ever bought was the set with different kinds of tips here and 2 handles. It actually had 3, but in one video in the advent calendar, I actually ruined mine and you could see it just flying. Yeah, but they are actually quite sturdy. I have them for ages, and you just can unscrew the tip and take out the tip here, put in any other if you want, which is actually not needed for just cutting paper or something, but it's really nice when you do the scratching techniques on canvas, for example. You might want to just have some curvy lines, which are way easier to do with these 2 here than with the one that I'm currently having on. So there's blades for different kind of angles and purposes, and this was super cheap in my craft store. I don't know how many years ago. 7 or 8 years ago, it cost maybe €6, which back then was not too much for so many blades, and they stay sharp. You don't, like with a box cutter, when you have to get rid of the blades at one point, not happening here. They stay sharp forever, and you can actually sharpen them just like your kitchen knives. So I spend $6 for a lifetime of blades when it comes to paper cutting. Also, I do have, let's go with the cutters first, and I'm going to put rid of this one just to make some space. Another one that is quite a cheap one here, it costs maybe €10 or €10 or less. This is a fairly quick, new one, and it is from actually a coffee place that sometimes do have like lines of clothing or I don't know, craft stuff, blah, 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 just randomly. And I don't know if you know it, but it's a distributor. It's made for the distributor. Yeah, why? Wow, great. So I guess you won't have Chibo in your place. But if you have, check out once in a while. They do have some fairly good stuff. They're not professional quality, but I'd say student quality, and you can really make it work. So what I bought was a circle cutter because I'm really bad with circles. I'm really bad with straight lines either, but I can work with rulers and like cutting knife there. With the circles, difficult. I have to say, really bad. But I'd use punches like the smaller ones, but when I have a bigger circle or I want to have a bigger circle, I'm really bad with cutting those, even if I do have lines on them. Not my kind of thing. It takes me forever to have a really straight line, or not like wonky bits in the circle lines, you know? So I bought the circle cutter that you just can adjust the blade. The blade is underneath. You can just adjust it once now to whatever inches or centimeters. It goes from 10 centimeters to 32, and inches it's 4 to 12 and 12.5 inches. So you can just adjust whatever. Let's say I want to have a 10-inch circle, then you tighten up the screw, take off the cover lid for the blade. I don't know if you can see it here. I'm just putting it on, otherwise I will cut myself. And then you just press down that circle here onto the paper, hold it tight, and go with the handle all around it. And then you have a perfectly cut circle. Sometimes I'm a kid. So yeah, I think that tool is very helpful. At least it is for me, just because I'm so crappy with cutting circles that I had to have something to help me out there. If you're really good with cutting, you just take the scissors, right? Or maybe you have a die cutting machine, then of course you don't have to get into these kinds of tools to help you out. Another cutting thing is just a paper trimmer that I bought, and it's very handy when it comes to paper crafting. So if I prepare something for origami or card making or gift boxes, gift bag kind of making, this one is a very, very important tool. Just have a blade down here, and it helps you a lot to quickly cut lots of papers way quicker than with a ruler and the other cutting knives that I talked about first. You can definitely do that as well. I'm not saying you have to have that, but this is a very, very helpful tool that I got for a few bucks only. It was maybe, I think it was 11 euros or something in my craft store. So that was very helpful, especially when you make a lot of origami stuff. So just saying, but there's different kinds of cutters or paper trimmers that you can get from any kind of company for any kind of euros, like amount-wise euros or dollars or whatever. So just maybe if you're interested in one, go with one that is okay when it comes to the pricing, that you can afford and that actually works well. So there's of course some that, I don't know, in Go 5 they cut the paper wonky or whatnot. So not the greatest thing, right? But why would you pay money for something that's not working? But some that are really working well are 30 euros or something, which I think, do I want to spend that? Am I using it often enough to actually, well, what's the word? Do I use it often enough to actually say, okay, I'm willing to pay the money, that kind of money for a certain tool? So that's your decision, of course. And well, I'm of that mind. I'm okay with spending money on tools, not only buying the cheap ones, but buying ones that might be a bit more pricey, if I can argue that I use it often enough and that it just doesn't sit on my shelf only. Like, that would be the worst thing. But that I really, well, use it and therefore make it worth to spend a certain amount of money for it. So that's my baseline for when I go shopping with art stuff. Staying with the cutters, of course, there's tons of scissors that I do have, and these are just the standard ones for paper, for fabric, for wool, all that kind of things. But I do have some other scissors as well. I mean, back in the day when it was the beginning of scrapbooking, you all had those fancy scissors with these kinds of patterns on there, and I do own two basic ones just because for nice borders when it comes to card making and stuff like that. So I do have, can you see it? I hope. I should probably here for the focus. This one, and then just the wavy line. And I think two scissors are enough because I use them still once in a while, but not as often as I used to. And then I do have the most important pair of scissors, at least to me. And these are very, very tiny. And they're tweezer scissors, actually, because you just tweeze them like that and you can cut really fine things with it. Like when it comes to, you stamp something, a tiny image, and you want to cut around it and you don't have the die cutting machine kind of thing, but you have to go with scissors. These are really good when it comes to the slim, fine things, edges, corners kind of thing. So handy. Also, for whatever reason, I seem to have less trouble to cut a nice outline for circles with this one than with my normal scissors, and I don't know why that is. Also, this one is left-handed and right-handed. These are right-handed scissors only, which also is a difference. And this one was quite expensive. Cost me, it doesn't say the price on here, but I think it was 15, almost 20 euros. Very, very expensive, but very much worth it for me, since I do not have left-handed scissors and my right hand gets very tired quickly when it comes to paper cutting with my right hand. Not even talking about cardstock. But I thought, okay, I'm not gonna buy a big pair of scissors for left-handed people. I'm gonna go for the small one, because then I don't have to buy a small one and a big one for left-handed, but I can have one that is for left-handed people also, and go with the right-handed one, cut most of the things with my right hand until it gets tired, and then I switch to the smaller scissors, you know? So these are very, very handy there, but they're not a must-have. They're just a must-have for me, just because I can't work around other things. I mean, the scissors, heavy. The scissors, of course, are a must-have in pretty much anybody's working space. So just get some good ones that you really like, and that, yeah, are good for your hands size-wise. Anyways, another tool that I use a lot, especially again with origami, especially with card making, gift boxes, gift bags, is the scoring board. And yes, I know it's the Martha Stewart. There's tons of others that are just as good and not as expensive, but at the time that I was looking for one and I needed it quite urgently, this one was the only one that could be shipped to me within 24 hours and had 12 inches, because that was something that I was looking for. There were lots of 6 inches or 9 inches boards from other producers that were not as expensive, but I couldn't find any that were 12 inches only, could be shipped to me within 24 hours, and that's why I bought the super expensive Martha Stewart one. But it works very well, the bone folder. I also use this one not only for scoring here, but also for folding origami things. So this is a great tool, and it works out really, really nicely. You also get this envelope edge here that you can slide on, so you can make your own envelopes and have the angled scoring lines. So it's a very, very good tool, but if I wouldn't have had that point that I needed it within 24 hours, I wouldn't have been going for one that costs 40 euros. Just saying a number here. So, yeah. Anyways, I used it so often that it's okay for me to spend that kind of money on a tool, you know? This one here is actually, that was gifted to me one year for Christmas, and that's a card making, it's actually, I think it was card making and box making, but mainly card making suitcase. So you do have the different kind of lines and like images on here that you can score on cards and just make imprints or embellishments and whatnot. And of course, very, very different lines also for frames and whatnot. And meanwhile, I don't use it for cutting or for the straight line tools here anymore, because I do have this Martha Stewart scoring board, but I use it for the images here, like the hearts or the dragonfly, or also the wavy borders and whatnot. So I still use it a lot, just not for the thing that I used it most beforehand, which was card folding and scoring boxes for, or scoring cardboard for making boxes and or gift bags, you know. Then that's enough with the cutting. Oh no, it's not. One more tool that kind of is for the cutting, and this is the greatest thing ever, a grid crafting mat. I really, really like that one, and I have the small one, which is A4. There's a lot bigger ones, and very many people, especially when it comes to card makers and whatnot, they use these ones just because you can really cut on those. They heal. You see, I do have a bit of glue here already from my origami folding, because some of them are with glue, super glue actually, so not really easy to clean, but they're really, really sturdy. They make a nice surface for, I do have cardboard on this table here. This is my crafting and painting table, because the overhead camera is there, so all the videos that you see, especially for the Tiny Tuesdays and the art journals, they're shot here with this camera. And this table here is not the sturdiest one, it's kind of wonky, and when it comes to paper crafting or putting pressure on it, I really need a flat and good surface, so I always use this one just because it's really, really working well. This is actually a basic thing that I think you should have in your studio if you do any crafting kind of thing. If you, quote unquote, just, because it's not just, a painter that paints on canvas and or papers, probably don't need this one, but when you're a crafter, this is a must-have. I can tell you that. Another nice thing and also must-have is, of course, hot glue gun when you're a crafter, and have a very tiny one that has a blob here. And just a few glue sticks. I'm not gonna go into how this works. It's just, like I said, a must-have when it comes to crafting. Especially embellishments, you know? Yeah. Then another thing that I use as a helper or a tool for, especially for painting actually, especially also in my art journal, you often see me putting one of these underneath the page that I'm doing. So I use plexiglass, which also is very nice when you just need to have a surface to do something on, like, I don't know, paper crafting, for example, or taping down watercolor paper, for example, before I paint it on the smaller surfaces. I use these a lot, but I use them on my art journal to protect the pages underneath, to come to not have any color or big smudges of whatever I'm doing on the current page just seep through or float around when I dry them with my hair dryer. I'm using a hair dryer to dry things quickly. I don't have a heat gun, don't need it. Hair dryer with different kinds of settings does the job. But I really like these kinds of boards, and you can get them made out of wood, or, like I said, I'm just using some plexiglass, but I really use them a lot when it comes to watercolor painting, where paper could warp and curl, just to tape things down. And I use them in my art journals just to protect the next page from whatever medium I'm going to use on the current one. I really, really like those. You could also use any kind of paper like I did before, but this is way sturdier, so it keeps me a clean surface to work on as well. Then, before I go into that big box that is looking at me there, another thing that I use a lot when it comes to woodwork, of course, but also to change the surface that I'm working on. Like, for example, any kind of wood, any kind of canvas, any kind of paper even, to make it rougher than I actually bought it, are these two sponges. And these are not the normal kind of sponges, but they actually work like sandpaper. You take away things, you scratch things, and I do have very fine and kind of fine, and there it's not so fine and really, really not so fine kind of things. So I can scratch things down and make surfaces more rough to take in something. And I really like to work, of course, with those. They're a must-have when you work with wood. but they're a nice way to work with paper or canvas as well. It just changes things, especially when you have pre-primed canvases and you want to, well, just make them rougher again. These are a very, very nice tool to use before you start painting on something. So this is, again, nice to have when it comes to painting, especially when you want to go for a certain style, but they're a must-have when it comes to woodwork. And the last kind of must-have that I think you should have when it comes to especially card making, doing backgrounds and or, well, they're very helpful for boxes, like gift boxes, gift bags. I use them a lot in my art journal actually, are stencils. Different kinds of stencils, and I bought some that are plastic with a ruler, different kinds of motifs like numbers, different kinds of animals here, and again the bigger animals, and some decorative borders. Another one where you can actually later cut out things or embellish things a lot, borders and or tag things like ornaments. And here it is all kinds of flowers and a muffin with candlelight for birthday cards and whatnot. So there's different kinds of elements that you could use, but the one that I use the most is actually the alphabet with capital letters and lowercase letters, and I really, really like it the more I use it. So I don't always use my stamps that I do have, but I use these ones a lot. And they're very, very good for that kind of a thing. Now, the last thing, and that is kind of huge, is something DIY that I use, and it's also stencils. So I have this goddamn huge box of stencils. Now you can't buy them as they are, but if you are a board gamer, you might have some of those, or you get two things for one. You get the stencils and you get the great board game, you know? Because these are the sheets where you punch out components for board games, and these, I don't throw them away, and I gotta get that out of here because it's in my way. I don't throw them away. I keep them. And I use them as stencils, especially background stencils for my canvases, like the larger sizes canvases, when I do want to make mixed media artwork on them, and or my art journal especially. So these are just like these rounds with a kind of a raindrop kind of thing there going on. Then I do have, of course, this standard shapes like circles and squares, which is quite helpful a lot. I also do have the weird shapes too, like tons and tons of those. I really like this one here. It could be a great background stencil where you just go with a gel or dab on some color or whatnot. So the weirdest kinds of shapes I do have in these stencils. The downside is you can use them only once, maybe twice, depending on what kind of a medium you use with these stencils, because they're just cardboard. So they're not as durable as plastic stencils that you can buy. But I don't spend any extra money. I just buy the board game, which I enjoy a lot as well, like anyway, but I just keep these things and use them as stencils. And you can see from here, I do have tons and tons of those. Can you actually see that on camera? It's like a lot of different kinds of stencils. And there's more and more to come just because we buy a certain amount of board games every year. That's, for example, the Dead of Winter people shapes that I really, really like and could use as background things, or just maybe in a black and white painting when it comes to having shapes of people that are in the background with a person in front could be the greatest painting. So I use the remains of the component punch out stuff for my stencils. I don't spend money on those. So if you happen to be a board gamer as well, or if you have something else that you maybe collect that has anything around it to protect it, that has lovely shapes and is usable as a stencil, at least once. Go for it, keep it, put it in a box, use it in stencils, as stencils in your artwork. It will really change the way you spend or you pay attention to backgrounds, especially. I can tell you that. So yeah, that's all the different kinds of tools that I use. Some, like I said, very, very important when you're a crafter. Some maybe also quite important when you're a painter. If you're a combined kind of interesting, when you're interested in both kind of things and have to combine them, well, a few nice to haves become must haves to actually be able to work on things. So yeah, that's what I work with. That's what I use and make work to achieve certain things. So maybe you got, especially with the board game thing, maybe you got an idea about something you could use if you're, again, not big on the money spending, just because, well, those stencils are also quite expensive, at least in my area. When I buy them, a background stencil that is maybe that big costs €8 easily. So it's like, yeah, wow, really? How often am I gonna use it? Is it worth the money to spend, or can I make something else work and therefore spend this money on some other paints that I really wanted to try, things like that, you know? So enough with the ramble. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for next week's Taco Clock. Again, I'm terrified to actually shoot it, and I'm putting it off, but I will make it. And you can see my fight with whatever painting is coming up next week. Stay tuned for that. Take a look. Also, if you have any questions for this video, anything that you might want to throw at me, just go ahead. Also, if you'd maybe liked and or shared this video, I would appreciate that a lot. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel? There's art videos, there's board game videos, and there's cooking videos every day of the week, because you gotta be entertained, right? Also, thank you again, and have a good week. I'm going to see you on Saturday with a new review of the artwork that happened. And stay tuned for next Thursday, which is going to be quite different. Again, have a good one, and I will see you. Bye-bye.